Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams.
We're your hosts, Stephanie.
And Alex.
And this week we stop a murderous 12-year-old in The Good Son.
The Good Son is a 1993 American psychological thriller film directed by Joseph Rubin. It follows a 12-year-old boy named Mark, who after the death of his mother, is sent to stay with his aunt and uncle while his father is away on a business trip. While there, he meets his cousin Henry, who shows signs of violent and evil behavior. It stars a young Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 23% with a critical consensus stating, "The Good Son is never good enough to live up to its unsettling potential, failing to drum up much suspense and unable to make Macaulay Culkin a credible psychopath." It has a 54% for its audience score. So, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Had you seen The Good Son before we watched it for the podcast?
No, actually, at one point I watched a Nostalgia Critic review about it, but this was like many, many years ago before there was any controversy. But I got the gist. I know what happens. Macaulay Culkin being like an evil little sociopath is an interesting take, but also similar to Home Alone in a sense.
Wait, what? This is similar to Home Alone?
I mean, a little bit, like his personality. I don't know. I guess he's just like a troublesome little scamp for the most part. But then, you know, in this case, he escalates a lot. But in Home Alone, he's still kind of violent. They do some violent things in Home Alone.
Okay, but we got to think about the circumstance here.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's more justified in Home Alone.
Yeah, one, you know, some are some burglars, and then, you know, the other people are his family. So
yeah, that's messed up. That's why there's a line.
That's some fucked up shit. So, did you like it?
Yeah, I had fun.
Would you be surprised for me to say that this is like a nostalgic movie for me?
No.
Okay, because like The Good Son from 1993 is kind of an odd choice to pull out of nowhere.
For sure.
And I'm like, this is definitely a movie I saw way too young that I like.
Of course, and you're like, I can't wait to look up to this little boy smoking and shooting dogs with nails. And
No! You're putting words in my mouth now, and that's not okay.
I'm sorry. No,
I never said that.
It's just a weird nostalgic movie to like. It is a little goofy, though, at times.
Yeah, it is. Did you believe Macaulay Culkin as, like, a psychopath? Like, did you think... Because this movie obviously wasn't well received, right? Mm-hmm. Critics didn't like it. It has 25%. And, you know, they stated that he wasn't credible. Do you think he did a good job in the role?
I think it was fine, but I think it was a poor choice for him to do this movie alongside all the Home Alone movies. I heard it did cause issues with kids wanting to see it because they recognized him as the kid from Home Alone. Yeah. And, I mean, he doesn't emote a lot in this. I mean, granted, he is just being like a stereotypical narcissist, technically, so I guess maybe that was the note he was given. But I also heard that the screenwriter for the movie said that like his plot and how he wanted to depict all the characters and stuff took a backseat once Macaulay Culkin joined the cast. Once
Macaulay Culkin's dad basically got him the role.
Yeah.
Because I think he made it contingent, like, for Home Alone 2. Like, to do
really?
Home Alone 2, he had to be in this movie or vice versa.
Really? What a strange request. I mean, he's...
Well, the reason was he wanted to show that he had range in like serious roles and stuff, which was the thought behind that. Now,
get him a role on like General Hospital or something, like
General Hospital,
something like, I don't know, have him be like a kid, like a patient in a hospital movie. Like there's plenty of shows. There was like Grey's Anatomy and all that stuff. Grey's Anatomy probably happened a little bit later, but still, there was plenty of hospital shows or something where he could have had range for just like an episode and then moved on to other things.
Oh no! He's Macaulay Culkin. He was a big deal in '93. He's not going to do one episode of a TV show.
Could have been a returning character for a little bit.
He was above TV. I feel like at that point, movies were still like seen.
Oh, kind of like tiered. Yeah.
Yeah, like shows were like, you're on TV, but I'm a movie star. I feel like that's how it was.
I don't know. I feel like outside of Home Alone, there was like a lot of other weird choices for movies that he did, and you're like, oh, like it seems like Home Alone was just kind of like your real big break, and everything else that you chose for yourself or your family chose for you was kind of like, oh, that's a strange choice. Like, remember like Richie Rich?
Yeah. And I feel like that was more suited for Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah. I think he did really well in Home Alone. I just feel like, yeah, like I don't know if the other choices for movies that he got were suited for him.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I saw it when I was younger that I thought he did a good job. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I think the deadpan, so matter of fact, worked because he doesn't show emotion. Like, obviously.
I mean, I think everyone's a little bit weird acting in this. Like, the mom, awful. You said awful? Awful stuff the whole time. Not awful, but there's enough where I'm like, why would you do that? Look.
Because she's heartbroken, okay? That's the mom from Santa Claus. How dare you?
Maybe it's
How
just
dare you?
Poorly written. Maybe poorly written then.
Yeah, maybe it was the director. But yeah, there's some interesting choices. But I think overall, you know who didn't do a great job? Connie. I'm sorry, Connie, which is Macaulay Culkin's sister in real life.
Yeah. I keep forgetting that he has a lot of siblings. But yeah.
And then the youngest, the
he was just a photo, but it was his brother. Mm-hmm. Which is nice, I guess.
Yeah,
they all look
get the whole family
related,
involved.
so it's fine. Like,
yeah, they look related because it's almost like they are.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
How bizarre.
How bizarre. Another random fact about Macaulay Culkin I found out. He legally changed his name to Macaulay Culkin.
What was it originally?
Started with a C. Calvin, I think, or something like that. But his legal name now is Macaulay Culkin.
Why?
Because it was like a joke. He put up a poll for people to answer, and they voted to change his middle name to Macaulay Culkin. So he's legally Macaulay Culkin.
Sure, why not?
Good times.
I mean, if you have silly, stupid money, like, sure.
I'd do it.
I will say that the one thing I did carry over, because I did end up having to watch the Nostalgia Critic review again after I lost access to the movie that I had rented, to just kind of get the beats of the plot again. I was like, It's easier just to like look through this review again and find out the beats of the plot. That he did compare the mom to a woman doing a Folgers commercial, and once you get that in your head, you're like, wow, I can't unsee it.
Oh no, you're ruining this movie.
Like, she turns her head and she's like, Folgers. Like,
my dead kid.
Yes.
Too soon.
A little bit. I mean, 1993.
Okay. It's a year after I was born. You know what? 1993, such a weird year. Jurassic Park came out. Hocus Pocus came out. Like, I'm not saying this is up there with those movies, but like something about 93, man.
It was a good year. It was me. It was my year.
Making it about yourself. I see how.
I'm not going to say I was like the catalyst, but I was born in the beginning of the year, so.
You're the reason Hocus Pocus came out. And Jurassic Park.
Yes, you're welcome.
Oh my God, thank you.
Anyway, would you like to go into the plot?
Yes.
We meet Mark Evans, a 12-year-old boy who visits his terminally ill mother in the hospital. He promises to not let her die, but she is passed by the following scene where they attend her funeral.
It's not funny.
No, but it is like, he's very adamant that she will not die. And
then immediately
dead.
Oh, no, Mark.
No. Such is life, I guess. I don't know what to say to that.
Damn, she cold.
I don't know. I feel like they probably should have warmed him up for it. Like, she will die. Like,
we should have had Carl from Smile.
Yeah, just be there. You're gonna die.
She's gonna die. Oh my God.
There we learn Mark's father, Jack, has to travel to Tokyo to complete a business deal that would set them up for life and would give him more time to spend with his son afterwards. So Mark will be staying with his brother's family while he's away. They travel from Arizona to Mark's uncle, Wallace, and Aunt Susan's house in Maine, where he will stay during the winter break. Mark is reintroduced after a decade to them, including their children, Connie and Henry.
I will say, it's a dated house, obviously. but it's very pretty.
It's very nice.
With the ocean
I'm
in
like,
the back.
do I want to go to Maine? Like,
if I were ever to move from Ohio, it would definitely be to like Massachusetts area, Maine,
really? Okay.
Delaware, Rhode Island. Yes. Take me there. The fall.
Yeah.
Like, just for the fall
just
vibes,
the fall
you know?
aesthetic.
Yeah. if I were to leave the state, that'd probably be where I would go.
Fair. Initially, Mark and Henry get along and regularly run around the island playing different games, although not very safe, but not outside the realm of normal kid behavior. Climb up a very high and rickety treehouse where Mark nearly falls. They run down train tracks, stand on the edge of a deep well, and cliffs overlooking the ocean. But as the day goes on, it seems to increase in potential danger. Oh, also additionally, I guess Macaulay Culkin needed to like up his cool boy factor. He smokes for a second. That was also bad.
It's weird because it's like Mark coming into the environment just made Henry evil.
Yeah.
Like he seemed like
no one suspected anything, obviously.
And then all of a sudden Mark's here and it's like all of a sudden Henry's like
I gotta act up.
Yeah. I gotta act a fool now. You know?
It's
Wait a
my
minute.
chance. One day they break windows inside an abandoned building, ultimately being chased away by a man and then a dog. The boys get away, but Henry stares down the dog, challenging it to bite him before Mark pulls him away. Soon after, Henry explains his fascination with death and asks Mark whether he looked at his mother before she died. This makes Mark uncomfortable, since he still believes she'll come back. Key factor here, oh, you went to her funeral. Didn't everyone tell you it's permanent? He's older too. He's 12.
Yeah, he's the same age-ish.
Yeah, so I feel like I knew that, people weren't coming back at that point. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, hold out hope, I guess. Whatever gets you through the day.
Yeah, but he asked not to talk about her. Henry agrees too, but describes his brother Richard's body after he drowned in the tub. Good topic changer. Can we not describe this?
Yeah, I'm good.
That's tragic.
I'm gonna go play my Game Boy over here, away from you.
I'm gonna lock myself in our shared bedroom and stay in there until my dad comes back.
Right. I try to think what I was like at 12. Was not that, believe it or not, shocking. Wasn't I?
Watching all the scary movies, you're like, I can't wait to tell everyone some fucked up shit.
When I'm way older in the future, I want to have a podcast.
Oh, you're just sitting on the playground, like Macaulay Culkin and The Good Son saying, don't fuck with me to people.
Yeah, right. No, people were saying that to me. I was like, okay, I won't. Just,
I'm not sure what that means.
Don't pick on me, please.
One day, Henry and Mark are shooting bottles with a homemade crossbow. Henry takes aim at a nearby cat, but Mark says not to. He claims he's only going to scare it and takes aim again, purposefully going for the cat, but misses by a few inches.
Thank God.
Mm-hmm. We don't need another cat death.
No, but we get,
We filled the void, don't worry.
I was like, oh, I don't remember this. Mm. And then I thought back, I'm like, oh, they showed a dog.
The next day, we see Mark visit a psychologist to cope with his mother's death. He admits he believes her death is his fault, and the psychologist doesn't ask enough questions, so it makes Mark look suspicious to everyone that's not the audience. He's like, I let her die, and she's kind of like, oh.
Why did you do that?
Why would you... Oh, this is much more serious than I thought. She doesn't ask any follow-up questions like, what did he do?
Mark killed his mom? Question mark? Okay.
Yeah. Therapy kind of fails Mark in this case. That night, he sees his aunt pass by his room and runs out to tell her that she's his mother. Come back to him. It doesn't make much sense, but Henry watches on with disdain. I'm like, but you already saw your aunt, and we know that she's been a person for quite some time in
her house that she lives in.
Yeah. So now she's your mom. Okay.
I
don't get the logic.
You know what? Mark is just going through some things, okay? You just gotta cut him some slack.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, like I said, whatever gets him through the day. If Susan is now his mom, who
So
he
be
just
it.
continues to call Susan, not Aunt Susan.
Not mom.
Nor
Just
mom.
Susan.
Just Sussin. Sussin.
And Sussin.
Sussin, no. I don't know. I was like, okay, if you want to.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, what would you say to a kid that believes that? Like, okay, I guess. Like, I don't... sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
A few days later, they try the nail gun on the dog that had chased them from the building, but this time Henry actually hits his target. The poor dog dies, and they hide the body by tossing it down the well. Mark seems only a little disturbed by what happened, but Henry claims again he was only trying to scare it. And I was like, this is enough that I would be like, I would have been traumatized. Like, I felt so bad about every little infraction as a kid, like that, like I cried like hysterically. So to kill an animal,
I'd be in hysterics. I'm just gonna say maybe Mark was in shock.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. You know?
And he became like Swedish for some reason. Oh my god.
That was what was going through his head. Oh my god, I can't believe you did that. He was just shocked.
Shooketh.
He was shooketh. Mark was so shooketh. That very day, it forever and always changed.
Oh no. Soon after, Henry takes Mark to a shed in their yard to meet someone. He shows meet someone.
Oh no, he's 12.
Oh no.
Oh no.
He shows him a large dummy dressed as a man and calls him Mr. Highway. Huh.
Want to hear a fun fact about that?
Sure.
Do you know the band A Day to Remember?
Yes.
They have a song called Mr. Highway's Thinking of the End.
Oh. Sad.
It's from this movie.
Really?
Well, obviously. Could you imagine if they just pulled that name out of nowhere and like, huh?
I don't know. I guess it's not impossible.
That's an exact quote from this movie.
Oh, he does say thinking of the end. I forgot about that part. But,
Yeah, how random. So I don't really know the connection, or
they just really like the Good Son. They also have nostalgia for it, apparently.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you're justified.
Thank you.
They take the dummy to a nearby overpass, and Henry pushes it onto the highway below, causing a massive vehicle pileup. And I was like, why did you agree to carry this to the highway? Like, when it's called Mr. Highway, it seems a little suspicious. No?
You Damn, Stephanie, just poking holes in the plot. Mark is shooketh, but also not the brightest.
You just saw a dog die yesterday. I don't know. I feel like maybe we shouldn't hang out with Henry anymore.
Right. He also thinks Susan's his mom. So, you know what? He's just all over the place.
Just letting it happen. Okay.
Yeah. At some point, you just gotta be like, all right, well,
I guess.
We're in for the ride. Buckle up.
Later that evening, Mark attempts to tell his uncle about what happened, but Henry stops him, claiming that he'll blame Mark if he tells. Which is like a fair point, I will say. Like, I guess, yeah, you could rationalize he could tell his parents, but it does seem that Henry only acting a fool now because Mark's here. Right. Everyone doesn't suspect him at all. No one treats this kid like he is creepy, even though he is clearly creepy. They're just children. Whimsy.
Whimsy. Yeah, that's the word for it.
Mark runs to their shared room, and Henry tries to confront him again when Connie comes in. Henry is immediately upset at her for coming into the room without knocking and starts pulling her ears. Mark intervenes, Connie gets away. He and Henry fight momentarily while Henry threatens his sister's life.
Again, is this news to Connie, or is he always a shit to her? Yeah, like, what's happening?
I don't know. She did say, like, when she came in and he was upset, she was like, you weren't working on anything, so I guess she might have had a bad experience previously, but I mean, not enough that her parents are like, stay away from him.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't understand why Mark all of a sudden, unless he's just his jealousy with Mark taking away his mom was just too much, and he just was like, whoa,
Yeah.
I'm evil.
Something. He also sort of like insinuates that since like Mark is like willing to protect Connie, it feels like he's trying to say like, you like Connie. And I'm like, I don't feel like that's...
I didn't think that was a thing.
I don't know. It feels like it was weird that he was like, she's a sweet little girl. And I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to imply here. It feels
probably just implying
awkward.
that she's a sweet little girl.
I guess. I don't know. It sounded weird to me the way he delivered it. His mother comes in and they claim to be just playing, but it only gets worse when the parents decide to leave them all alone for the night while they go out on a date. Mark is clearly upset by that. But they leave anyway, and as soon as they drive away, Henry cuts the power to the house. Like, they could see it, like, on the street. Like, the house goes completely dark.
They were backing out of the driveway with their eyes closed. It was like, no.
Time to leave our perfectly normal children home alone.
Where no one will get hurt ever.
No. We've not had a child die on us. That's for sure.
Not one time.
No, that's never happened for us. Mark desperately searches for Connie, but finds her and Henry playing hide and seek. Mark reads her a story and tucks her in for the night. Henry is waiting in the doorway and asks if he really thinks he'd kill her. Mark says yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously.
I do think that. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. The next morning, Henry takes Connie ice skating, and Mark rushes to meet them when he realizes they've left alone. Henry skates along super fast and pushes Connie into thin ice, where she falls in and nearly drowns. Luckily, she's pulled out in time, but is hospitalized.
Nick watched this with me, and I turned to him. I'm like, if this ever happened, my children would not be leaving their room ever again.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, something's weird's happening.
Right. Like, I feel like there's just like too many red flags where they just like they're not present for, but they know something weird has happened, and they just like let them go off and do more stuff alone where all the weird shit's happening. Like,
right.
Kids being kids.
No, they would not. They'd be in bubbles. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm concerned.
Yes, you all stay here in your designated quarters.
Do not look at each other.
No,
do not move.
Don't interact. I need to see a week of you guys just being normal, and then maybe we'll talk about privileges to do other things.
Moving 2 feet to the left, maybe. Yes.
You can switch corners. It'll be fun. Something to look forward to.
Oh, yay!
Scenery.
This corner had a dead bug in it last week.
Yes. But now I have the corner by the window. The window seems like a special place.
Not the special window, Stephanie.
But then you know that Mom likes you best when she puts you by the window.
My God.
Sorry.
This is not okay.
At this point, Mark tries to tell his Aunt Susan about what really happened with Connie, and she slaps him in disbelief. It's kind of crazy how she does it, too. Like, she slaps him and then pulls him in for a hug. It's very weird, and I think that would be a weird scenario for a child. I'd be like, wow, my cousin is absolutely Looney Tunes, and my aunt now abuses me, so I guess I'm going to have to fly home or something. I don't know.
Not his aunt, his mother.
Oh yeah, my mother aunt. My mother aunt is abusive.
Not Aunt Mother. Aunt Mommy.
Not Aunt Mommy.
Don't hit me and then immediately hug me. Fucking Aunt Mommy.
Aunt Mommy Suzanne.
Susan, no.
Afraid that no one will believe him, he goes back to a psychologist to try to tell her, but Henry is already there, convincing her that Mark is the problem.
How the fuck did he get in here? How did he schedule an appointment?
I don't know. And I was like, why would she just let this random child in to talk about her other patient?
And she believes Henry.
Yeah.
Fuck Mark, I guess.
I don't think we had Henry. We don't know of Henry having been a patient before or anything. I don't feel like the parents would have had the wherewithal to be like, maybe he needs counseling.
No.
Only Mark.
Only Mark. Yes.
Yeah, so she's obviously convinced, and later Mark tells Henry he'll do anything to protect his family from him, and Henry's like, well, I'll just kill my mom.
Okay.
Aunt Mother.
Aunt Mother Sussin is dead. She's...
Henry wills it so.
Yeah, sorry. She gotta go.
Right. Mark calls his dad, explaining that Henry is dangerous, and he says he'll come get him. Again, Mark attempts to warn someone about Henry, but his uncle believes him to be delusional, so he locks him in a back room and calls the psychologist.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean... Where's Henry and Susan, though? Like, where's Sussin? Where's Sussin?
At the very least, like, maybe just listen to him and, like, maybe just go with them. Mm-hmm. But they're just like, no, Mark is just lying.
I don't see it. No.
I don't see it. Like, they didn't see the power go out in their house. Like, they're just blind. Mm-hmm. Literally blind.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Henry and his mother are taking a walk. Now that they're alone, she finally decides to confront him about his brother's death. He says, so what if he did? And takes off running. Susan comes out at the edge of the cliff, unable to find Henry, and he pushes her over the ledge from behind. She hangs onto a branch below, and as Henry's about to throw a rock down at her, Mark has apparently escaped and attacks him. This gives Susan enough time to climb back up, right as the boys topple over the ledge. She's holding on to both of them, but obviously can't save one without dropping the other. She lets go of Henry and pulls Mark up. We then just cut to some time afterwards. Mark is back in Arizona and speculates whether his Aunt Sussin regrets having saved him instead of Henry, but knows it's something he should never ask. And I was like, oh, and we just never do any follow-up with how the family copes with Henry's just not here anymore.
Right. Poor Connie, just like the last remaining child. Like, what? Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah. Rip Henry.
And, you know, like, it was such a non-issue. They were just like, we don't even have to talk about it. Like,
and then it was over. The end.
Like, we barely realized Henry was a problem until the last 5 minutes. So,
kinda.
Like, you know,
well,
just nip it in the bud.
To give the movie some credit, there was a scene we didn't really talk about where Sussin finds Richard's duck in Henry's shed, and she kind of gets a little like, what the hell, I was looking for this, and he was acting all weird about it. So I think at that point she was starting to like
piece the puzzle together.
Yeah, which was a little bit earlier in the plot. Still way too late.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Yeah, because this is also after, like, he comes to the hospital, like, on his own somehow, and Susan's, like, surprised to see him, and he's like, oh, I just came to check on Connie. I definitely didn't come to suffocate her in her sleep.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, and she doesn't think that's weird. She's just like, oh, what a sweet older brother to Connie, and yeah, there's enough red flags that Susan is just clearly missing.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And then she finds that rubber duck, and it's, like, enough, I guess. Well, and when she confronts him.
I don't know, because I just feel like when it's your kid, granted I don't have a kid, obviously, but, like, you're willing to, like, overlook a lot. And, like, and, like, really, though, if we think about it, what did he do from Susan's perspective that would have been like, oh, he definitely murdered my other kid? You know what I'm saying? If we really break it down.
Yeah, I don't know.
He is a 12-year-old boy, which they get in trouble. Mm-hmm. Just existing.
I also, going in, I thought that they would be more aware, but they were just kind of like ignoring the fact too, because also without the whole, like, if you cut out the whole she lets him fall from a cliff, what do you do? How do you deal with a child that is killing people, essentially, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, you can have them psychologically evaluated, maybe locked up for a little bit of a period of time, but you know, they're a child, they'll eventually be released back to your custody. I
think, well, I mean, if they're killing people, they probably be tried as an adult.
Yeah,
I would think.
I guess.
Like, they're like, oh, here you go. I think there's like,
you couldn't wait to have him back, right? Like,
yeah, here you go. Let him do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I had a question for you. Do you think the way the movie kind of frames it is Henry's just like evil? Mm-hmm. And then they actually did a book, a novelization of this movie.
Oh.
I think that was like more popular.
Oh, really?
Back in the day, where they take the movie and make a novel out of it. And a lot of the times when they do stuff like that, they add more to it, just because like taking a movie and writing it out isn't usually big enough for a novel. Mm-hmm. And at the ending's a little bit different. I think they kind of talk about how Henry just had like issues, like processing emotion and all this stuff. So do you think he had just like something going on with him, or he was just like evil? He was just straight up evil.
I mean, I would say that they just like depict him as evil, because otherwise I feel like if we did have more of an inkling of what was going on with him, we would have had some flashback or something like that to it, like insight or indicate that there was some sort of trauma done to Henry that made Henry lash out to this degree. Mm-hmm.
That's
or like
fair.
Sometimes, like, have you ever heard of like the McDonald's? I think it's McDonald triad.
Oh, where like killing an animal, like the three things that you have to see.
Bedwetting and something else. There's, but a lot of killers that they've realized that fit those categories, which technically Henry does too, sort of, or at least one of them. They find that one of the inciting incidents for them acting out is there's usually a head injury.
Okay.
So,
well, that makes sense.
I mean, his parents weren't watching him, so very likely. Maybe he didn't even get treated. They were just like, Henry's walking kind of funny today. Like,
his eyes twitching. Not sure why, but he seems fine.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he's not just like evil. I don't know. It's like he's just bad.
Yeah.
But they also never talk about it. So who knows?
Yeah, I guess they can't if they wanted to keep the parents completely in the dark. But I feel like even though, like, yes, he is their child, you would notice like minute things of your child being like super aggressive like that, like to his sister, or, you know, obviously he hated his brother enough to kill him, so he probably did stuff to him before he actually drowned him. So there's got to be some sort of indicator.
I'm by no means know any of the like psychological stuff behind that, but you said he hates his brother. Do you think he actually hated Richard, or he just was so fascinated with death he was just like, well, I'll kill him?
I don't know. He could have also been jealous of him, just as he was with Mark taking over his mom's time, even though it doesn't even seem like he had a very close relationship with her. It just seemed like he just wanted her because something to possess.
Yeah, I was like, if I can't have her, neither can you type situation. Right. So I'll just eliminate her from the equation. Right,
because when he talks to Mark about killing her, he's like, my mother, your mother, doesn't really matter. She did. Auntie Mother. Auntie Mother just sussin. Doomed.
Aunt Mommy sussin. What did you rate the movie before we watched it?
I felt like I had a good grasp on what was going to happen. Aside from the dog death, I forgot that there was a dog death. But I rated it as a 3, and I still feel like that stands. Like, I'm not terrified of Henry. I
just punch him in the face.
Right. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Just kick him a little.
Yeah.
Down.
Yeah.
So I had it as a 5, and I would probably bump it down to like 4. It's that weird gray area where it's like definitely not in the family fun time category. Like, let's not subject your child to this.
Although you have nostalgia for it, but
don't watch the movies that I watched at a young age. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I mean, I turned out fine. However, I'm just saying, I think I would just bump it up in a little scary, but I'll deal. But like the bottom tier, just because
to save people from trying to show it to their kids.
It's not appropriate. Like the subject matter is not appropriate. Like, even though it's not that scary, to your point, it's more of a thriller, and that's always like a weird. Our thriller's horror.
Yeah.
Debate back and forth.
Right.
But I couldn't put it in like a family, because when I think of like a 3 in a family scale, I feel like it's pushing the boundaries of scary, but has a little levity in it. Mm-hmm. This movie has like no like happiness. It's like there's no fun to be had in this movie. So I'm going to stick with my 4, but just know it's not really scary per se. It's just the subject matter.
Just to push it out of that category. Yeah, I get it. The reason I kept it as a 3, I would say, is because like high school kids could see this and it would totally not faze them at all. You know, like it would just be like a blip on the radar.
Yeah. See, when I think of the first 3 categories, I'm thinking like children, not teenagers. So I'm like, that's a different category for me.
Right.
But yeah, he also said, Mark also does say an F word, which we talk about.
That is true.
Tisk tisk. Don't say it.
Don't say it. Okay.
So I'm gonna stick with my 4. You're gonna stick with your 3.
Yeah, I think so. I'm cool with that.
That's fair. I bet Aunt Mommy Sussin would not agree with you though.
No. For her, I mean, if it really happens to you, that's a full 13.
It's like
to have a child and realize that he's attempted to kill one child and killed another, and then be like, well, now I have to kill him. Otherwise, I lose my nephew, who apparently is innocent. So, yeah, that's just all kinds of degrees of family counseling you need afterwards.
Yeah. 13 Degrees of Screams, 13 Degrees of Family Counseling. New podcast. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to the podcast and you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful, and we always appreciate it. If you're watching it on YouTube right now, subscribe to our channel, leave a comment. We'd love to talk with you.
Yes, like and comment, and, you know, we can even request some movies that you want us to cover in the future. We would love to hear from you. And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.